I'm Adrian Seet, and this is Nightline, news making the headlines. Anti-hopping law. Dewan Rakyat Speaker to decide on any vacancies in parliamentary seats. And snow disrupts travel as temperature hits negative 15 degrees Celsius in the UK. Thanks for joining us. Dewan Rakyat Speaker Tan Sri Ashar Azizan Harun will decide on whether there are any vacancies in parliamentary seats once he receives notices about party hopping by members of parliament. He said, according to the federal constitution, it is the duty of the Speaker to determine the vacancy of the seats after a notice is given. Tan Sri Ashar, however, said he would not prejudge on the matter concerning the 4 MPs from Gabungan Rakyat Sabah, GRS, and refused to discuss further on the question of whether they needed to vacate their parliamentary seats following a mass departure of leaders from Sabah Bersatu on Saturday. Meanwhile, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Law and Institutional Reform, Dato Sri Azalina Othman Said, said she is waiting for an official report from the Attorney General's Chambers, AGC, on the status of 4 Sabah Bersatu MPs who were elected on a GRS ticket. But ultimately, the final decision lies with the Dewan Rakyat Speaker. She also said that under Article 49A of the Federal Constitution on anti-party hopping, the Dewan Rakyat Speaker would have 21 days to decide after receiving an official notification. The 4 Sabah elected representatives are Papa MP, Dato Sri Armizan Ali, Batu Sapi MP, Khairul Firdaus Akbar Khan, Ranau MP, Jonathan Yassin, and Sipitang MP, Mat Bali Musa. According to the anti-party hopping law, made through an amendment to the federal constitution, MPs will lose their seats if they jump to another party. Now, GRS Secretary General Datuk Sri Masiri Manjun said that the 4 MPs concerned were fully aware of the anti-hopping law which came into effect on October the 5th before they contested in the recent 15th general election. In a statement on Monday, he said that the MPs will inform the Dewan Rakyat Speaker if and when necessary of their position and will issue a statement accordingly. He added that GRS is also confident that the MPs will not be affected by the anti-hopping law following the decision to exit Sabah Bersatu on Saturday. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riyatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah on Monday granted an audience to Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim for a pre-cabinet meeting at Istana Negara. In a statement posted on Facebook, Istana Negara said the meeting had started at 4:15 p.m. It lasted for 45 minutes. According to the statement, the session was also the first time for Datuk Sri Anwar after he was sworn in as the 10th Prime Minister on November 24th. It said the pre-cabinet meeting was amongst the weekly activities or the main routine of Al-Sultan Abdullah to discuss and exchange views with the Prime Minister on government affairs and related issues. Malaysia and Timor-Leste are set to explore new areas of cooperation. This was discussed when Timor-Leste President Dr. Jose Ramos Horta called on Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim in Sri Perdana Putrajaya on Monday. Ramos Horta and his delegation arrived on Sunday to discuss and evaluate the cooperation between the two countries. In the meeting that lasted about an hour, Ramos Horta also congratulated Datuk Sri Anwar on his appointment as Prime Minister. Present were Economic Minister Rafizi Ramli, Deputy Foreign Minister Datuk Muhammad Alamin, and Foreign Ministry's Deputy Secretary General Datuk Norman Muhammad. Timor-Leste's ASEAN Affairs Director General Milena Rangel and Timor-Leste Ambassador to Malaysia Joanna Veneranda Amaral were also in attendance. Malaysia and Timor-Leste maintained warm relations, which precedes Timor-Leste's independence in 2002. Malaysia was the first country to set up a liaison office in Dili in 2001 and the first amongst ASEAN countries to set up an embassy in Dili in 2002. It has supported Timor-Leste in terms of its social, security and economic developments by providing capacity-building training courses for its officials through the Malaysian Technical Cooperation Programme. In 2021, Malaysia was Timor-Leste's 8th highest trading partner and 13th export destination as well as 7th source of imports. From January to October this year, the bilateral trade between Malaysia and Timor-Leste was $84.6 million. Earlier, Perlis Menteri Besar Muhammad Shukri Ramli called on Datuk Sri Anwar at the Finance Ministry. The meeting, which lasted over an hour, was to discuss issues pertaining to the development of Perlis. Datuk Sri Anwar was at the Finance Ministry to check on projects approved through direct negotiations. On December the 6th, the Prime Minister ordered a review of 7 billion ringgit worth of approvals under the 15 billion ringgit flood mitigation project that were conducted through direct negotiations instead of a tender process. Earlier on his Facebook posting, the Prime Minister conveyed his condolences to the family of Tan Sri Teh Hong Piao, who died on Monday morning. Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said the death of the Public Bank founder was a great loss to the Tan Sri Teh's family, the banking sector and the country. Public Bank had earlier in a statement said Tan Sri Teh had passed away peacefully at 10:20 a.m. He was 92. Tan Sri Teh was born in Singapore on March the 14th, 1930, having attended his formal primary and secondary education at the Anglo-Chinese School in Singapore. Public Bank is currently the second largest company listed on Bursa Malaysia with a market capitalization of 85.21 billion ringgit. In a bid to shorten landing time for arrival flights at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, KLIA, the Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia, CAAM, will implement the Standard Instrument Departures, SIDs, and the Standard Instrument Arrivals, STAR systems. And this will be effective May 18th of next year. Explaining its implementation on Monday, Transport Minister Anthony Look Siu Fuk said the systems would also optimize air traffic management efficiency and provide added value to airlines, passengers and the environment.
Dengan adanya sistem ini, dianggarkan estimation boleh menjimatkan kos bahan bakar sebanyak hampir 500 juta ringgit setahun untuk syarikat-syarikat penerbangan yang beroperasi di KLIA ini. Jadi ini adalah satu penjimatan yang besar kepada syarikat-syarikat penerbangan dan itu antara perkara yang kita harap dapat membantu sektor aviation.
Lok spoke to the media after inspecting the operation of the Kuala Lumpur Air Traffic Control Centre in Sepang, Selangor on Monday. He pointed out that the decision to implement the systems next year was made as sufficient time is needed to provide training to air traffic controllers. The Transport Minister added that his ministry had sought CAAM's cooperation to ensure that all traffic control towers, especially in Sabah and Sarawak, extend their operating hours to enable airline operators to increase flight frequencies at night. He also urged airline companies to increase their flight frequencies to tackle the issue of lack of flights and at the same time help reduce flight ticket prices. The Human Resources Ministry is targeting 500,000 housewives to register as contributors under the Housewife Social Security Scheme, SKSSR, next year. Its Minister V. Sivakumar said the scheme that was implemented on December the 1st until the 8th had received an overwhelming response, with more than 1,092 registrations in its first week.
Kita akan mengambil segala inisiatif untuk membolehkan lebih ramai untuk mendaftar dan mencarum dalam skim ini, dan kita juga akan mengambil beberapa langkah terdekat. Saya juga bercadang untuk memberi taklimat, pihak pejabat perkeso akan memberi taklimat kepada ahli-ahli parlimen supaya mereka juga, semua ahli-ahli parlimen, seramai 222 orang ahli parlimen juga boleh membantu untuk mempromosikan skim ini di kawasan masing-masing.
On July 25th, the Dewan Rakyat passed the Housewives Social Security Bill 2022. The HR Minister, speaking to the media at his ministry in Putrajaya, added that contributors only need to make a payment of 120 ringgit per year in advance to receive protection for 12 consecutive months, provided the individual is a Malaysian citizen or a permanent resident aged below 55. The Health Ministry will discuss several important issues, including the alleged misappropriation of funds totaling 600 billion ringgit. Its Minister, Dr. Zaliha Mustafa, said a meeting would be held on the matter soon, as she has yet to receive updates on the actual amount spent for the COVID-19 management measures.
Saya masih menunggu juga dari pihak KKM untuk memberikan update-nya. Jadi itu sama ada 600 ke jumlahnya itu kita akan dapat selepas daripada briefing daripada KKM. Jadi saya minta maaf saya tak dapat nak menjawab tentang hal itu sehinggalah saya mendapat taklimat yang penuh tentang dalam sehari dua ni.
Dr. Zaliha said this to reporters after launching the Heart Centre at Serdang Hospital on Monday. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim previously said that the Finance Ministry officials confirmed there were serious violations in relation to the 600 billion ringgit in expenditure during Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin's administration. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, then confirmed it received details regarding the breakdown of the economic stimulus package funds spent by the government in 2020 and 2021. In relation to the COVID-19 management measures from the Finance Ministry, the MACC has since disclosed that investigations into the alleged misappropriation of COVID-19 stimulus funds will focus on the 92.5 billion ringgit directly funded by the government. And this just in. A child and two women were injured after they were thrown off a funfair ride at Bandar Puncak Alam in Kuala Selangor on Monday night. District Police Chief Superintendent Ramli Kasa said police were alerted about the incident at 8:50 p.m. It was believed that the victims were thrown off from one of the attractions known as the Sotong Ride while it was spinning around. One of the women suffered serious injuries. All of the victims have been taken to the Shah Alam Hospital for treatment. Videos of the incident have also gone viral on social media. The identities of the victims are still unknown, and the case is now being investigated under the Selangor Entertainment and Places of Entertainment Enactment 1995 for operating without a license. The flood situation in Pahang and Terengganu slightly improved on Monday night, while the situation in Perak remains unchanged. However, the number of flood victims evacuated to relief centres rose in Kelantan and Johor. As of 10 p.m., the total number of evacuees in all 5 states stood at 2,756, an increase of 246 people compared to Sunday. According to the Info Bencana JKM portal, the number of evacuees in Kelantan rose to 1,929 people from 1,157 at 4 p.m. The State Disaster Management Committee Secretariat said that the evacuees are being housed in 7 relief centres in Pasir Mas. In Pahang, the number of flood evacuees dropped to 457 victims in 4 relief centres compared to 573 earlier, with the Merlo having the highest number of evacuees at 363 people. In Terengganu, the number of victims decreased to 202, with 6 relief centres open in Kuala Terengganu, Kuala Nerus, Kemaman and Dungun. Perak still has a total of 134 evacuees, and all of them are given shelter at the SMK Abdul Rahman Talib Relief Centre in Hile, Perak. As for Johor, the District Disaster Management Committee said the number of victims rose to 34 from 27 evacuees. And all the victims are being housed at Balai Raya Kampung Batu Badak and Balai Raya Kampung Kuala Paya Relief Centres in Segamat. When we return, Britain to brace for winter strike action as nurses walk out. On to the foreign news. Snow and ice are causing widespread travel disruption across the United Kingdom after temperatures plunge to negative 15.6 degrees Celsius in Scotland overnight. The coldest night of the year so far saw heavy snow in the southeast and east of England, leading to severe travel disruption for airports, railways and motorways. The cold snap has also claimed 3 lives, 3 boys aged 8, 10 and 11 after they fell into an icy lake near Solihull in the west of the Midlands. More than 300 flights due to serve UK airports were cancelled on Sunday and Monday, with Stansted, Gatwick, Luton and London City amongst the worst impacted. Londoners also face severe difficulties getting around on Monday morning, with most tube lines experiencing delays or part closure. The weather warning for snow and ice has been stretched into the week until midday Thursday. Meanwhile, British nurses will go on strike this week, hitting already stretched hospitals and cranking up pressure on Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to quell the biggest wave of industrial action to hit the country in decades. Unions are seeking double-digit pay rises to keep pace with inflation that hit 11.1% in October, the highest in 41 years. However, the government has so far refused to budge on pay and is instead looking to tighten laws to stop some strikes, meaning there is no end in sight for what has been dubbed a new winter of discontent in reference to the industrial battles that gripped Britain in 1978 to 1979. The walkout comes as strikes cripple the rail network and postal service. Airports brace for disruption, and junior doctors, midwives and teachers prepare to ballot, threatening to further jam up an economy that is likely already in recession. In Italy, 3 women, including a friend of the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, were killed on Sunday when a man opened fire at a cafe in Rome. 4 other people were wounded in the shooting, with at least one of them suffering serious injuries. 57-year-old Claudio Campi allegedly opened fire on a meeting of his apartment building's residents using a clock pistol stolen from a shooting stand. It was reported that the suspect is in custody and has a history of disputes with some of the committee's board. Meloni said a shooting range from which the suspect had taken the gun used in the attack had been closed and placed under investigation by the authorities. At least 2 people were killed in Peru on Sunday after police clashed with protesters calling for new elections and the release of detained former President Pedro Castillo. The head of Peru's Ombudsman's office, Ileana Rivoya, told a radio station that a 15-year-old and an 18-year-old died during the clashes, possibly as a result of gunshot wounds. Protests were also reported in cities across Peru's interior, including Cajamarca, Acuerpa, Huancayo, Cusco and Puno. In Andahuaylas, in Apurimac region, clashes broke out as demonstrators attempted to storm the southern city's airports. Demands for new elections come as recent polls show nearly 9 in 10 Peruvians disapprove of the nation's legislature. Peru is now on its 6th president since 2016. After this breather, official match ball for World Cup semis, final revealed. Football, the 2022 World Cup. Former iconic footballers Brazil's Kaká and Spain's Iker Casillas presented the official match ball to be used in the semi-finals and final in Doha, Qatar. The new ball, called Al-Hilam, which in Arabic translates as the Dream, replaces the current ball Al-Rihla, which in Arabic translates as the Journey. The Al-Hilam, with a goal-based design and triangular pattern, pays tribute to the deserts surrounding the host nation's capital city, Doha. The existing ball, introduced with technology to assist in tracking and helping referee decisions, has so far been used across the group stages and initial knockout rounds of the tournament. Two-time winners Argentina take on 2018 finalists Croatia in the first semi-final on Tuesday, before defending champions France face surprise package Morocco in the other last four clash on Wednesday, with the final due to be played at the Lusail Iconic Stadium on Sunday. Moving on to rugby, the World Sevens Series. Samoa's men defeated New Zealand 12-7 in the final of round 3 to claim their first series trophy since 2016. Battling the stormy conditions in Cape Town, Samoa fought from 5-7 down to take the cup victory through Va'a Apilu Maliko's try and Fa'afoi Falaniko's conversion. USA took bronze with a 22-14 victory against hosts South Africa. It is the Samoans' first 7 series victory since Paris in 2016 and sees the Oceanian country move to join first in the standings with South Africa on 47 points. New Zealand and USA are tied with 44 points, with the next series taking place in Hamilton, New Zealand on the 21st and 22nd of January. Two wanted men shot dead in Gurun. This and more after this break.
네가 이겼다고 생각해.
Nightline continues. Two men wanted by the police for several armed robbery cases in Kedah were shot dead in a shootout in Gurun, Kedah on Sunday. State Police Chief Datuk Wan Hassan Wan Ahmad said one of the suspects had 64 previous criminal records, including for robbery and drug-related offences, while the other suspect had no previous record. Datuk Wan Hassan said the two suspects were believed to be responsible for 16 to 20 robbery cases in the state, and police would launch a manhunt for their accomplices. Earlier, the duo in their 60s and 40s were travelling in a car sped away when ordered by police to stop. The officers then chased the car before intercepting it. During the chase, the suspects fired several shots at the police, forcing them to shoot back in self-defense, which led to the death of the duo. A policeman was hit during the shootout. However, he was not injured as he was wearing a bulletproof vest. Police then screened the car and seized several items used for housebreaking, such as a machete, screwdriver, a sword, and 2 revolvers. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code, the Firearms for Increased Penalties 1971, and the Arms Act 1960. In Terengganu, a father was sentenced to 8 years in jail and 4 strokes of the rotan by the Kuala Terengganu Sessions Court for sodomizing his 7-year-old daughter. Judge Noria Osman meted out the sentence to the 45-year-old accused after he was found guilty. For the first charge, the accused was charged with sodomizing his daughter between December 1st, 2020 and January 30th, 2021. The offence was committed at a house in Dungun, Terengganu. He was also charged with committing the same act at the same date and place. The accused was sentenced to 8 years in jail and whipping for the charges. The judge ordered the sentences to run consecutively from April 15th, 2021, the day the accused was arrested. Various bright-coloured light sculptures were on display at the Great Lights of Asia Festival in Pakruais, Lithuania. Visuals of that radiant festival wrap up Nightline this time around. I'm Adrian Seet. Thank you for tuning in and take care.